Welcome to the SoCal Classic Car Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your co-host, Jay Marash. The show is associated with SoCal Classic Car Storage, which provides South OC car lovers the opportunity to secure their vehicles in an environment made just for them. Our two facilities feature advanced security systems, 24-hour video surveillance, and a dedicated members lounge. In addition to storage, our expert sales staff offers consignment services for those looking to sell their cars. For more information, visit us at Laguna Hills or at SoCalCarStorage.com or on Facebook at Facebook.com/SoCalCarStorage.
Thanks a lot, Jay, and welcome to the one and only SoCal Classic Car Podcast. I am your other host, Dean Marash. Today, we have a very, very special guest, Sara Dakarmen. And if I mispronounce that, please forgive me. CEO
Dakarmen.
That's right, I did. CEO and co-founder of Los Angeles Dismantler. Sara's been rocking the Porsche world for over 20 years. She and her late husband co-founded Los Angeles Dismantler in the 90s and became the most sought-after Porsche Parts distributor worldwide. After her husband passed, Sara forged ahead and has become one of the most well-established in her field, a rare feat in a predominantly male industry. As one of the world's largest late model Porsche salvage brokers and dismantling providers, her customer base reaches around the world to provide recycled, secondhand, and pre-owned Porsche parts for restoration and project owners, dealerships, mechanics, racing teams, motorsport technicians, engine builders, body shops, and repair facilities. Wow. Sara also sits on the board of Porsche Club of America LA and can almost always be seen at car events, shows, and auctions in SoCal and around the globe. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Is that about me?
I think so. It's impressive.
We do a lot of research here. So
I guess so.
Impressive. So why don't you tell us in your own words about this awesome business you run, Los Angeles Dismantler, and what you enjoy the most about it?
Well, our motto is keeping Porsches on the road. So that is really the intention. So during our history, I'd say I couldn't even really try to understand how many Porsches that's been, but we've got a pretty deep customer base, and we've been really happy that we've been able to support the community. So
do the customers come back to you and tell you about this, how you've kept their Porsche alive or getting it back on the road? I mean, is that part of the fun?
You know, everyone's different in terms of what their, kind of experience is. But for example, I was at a PCA Concours not long ago, and there was an entrant there, and he had documented from the very start of his car all the way up to he had pictures of himself in our shop buying the parts.
No way.
All the way up to it was incredible what he had done. So, you get all kinds of extremes, people that take 20 years to build a product, some people that never finish, and some people that, that is their crowning glories, what their hands actually were able to do with it.
Wow, that's cool. Jason will tell you, I'm not really good at the finishing. I'm really good at the starting. I get a problem.
Yeah, and then
I'm good at ideas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of
you
like
might even go further.
It's kind of like when I go to Barnes and Noble and then buy 4 books and then I'll never read them because I'm reading the other 4 books I bought at Barnes and Noble the month before.
I think he says the same about my car projects. I think he's right, to be honest. I'm not a finisher. So cars and Porsches, have they always been part of your life since you were a little girl, or is this some late life love affair? I can't say that with German.
It's okay. It's like tongue twister.
Yeah. All right. Is this late life thing, or have you always been just totally into Porsches?
Well, my dad got a Porsche when I was 10, and we lived in a very small suburban community. So, I think that's kind of what started it. I always had an ear for cars, so I my room faced the cul-de-sac. And I knew every car when it came home from work, like which one it was and which neighbor and which house it belonged to. So I've always had kind of an affinity for cars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've got the ear. You can tell a car just by the sound. And
And I won't say all cars, but as a young girl on a cul-de-sac of 10 houses, yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
But if I'm sitting here, I usually know the sound of a Porsche going by, yes.
That's really awesome.
Or exotics. I've had a lot of exotics,
It's
too.
usually like a low rumble. It sounds.
Depending on the exhaust on it. Yes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That does screw things up.
It does.
We've-
I mean, one of my favorite sounds is within like a parking structure when you have a low ceiling and you get a really hearty exhaust. Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to show you some of the cars we have. We have a Ferrari 488 GTB over there, and the first thing that guy did was change out the exhaust system.
Okay.
Like it wasn't loud enough when you start up. So there's these huge pipes sticking at the back. You start that car up. Wow. So
See, it's loudness isn't the thing for me because I
Okay.
think I've had hearing loss over my years.
Right.
And I was actually at a car show and there was, I forget what it was, and the guy started and it was the loudest bang. My whole insides like shook, and not in a good way. So I wouldn't say that loudness is the thing,
Yeah.
but it's that certain kind of pitch and sound that,
yeah,
that really
I'm sure
gets
the
me.
engineers spent a lot of time designing those sounds. I've heard a little bit
yes.
about that. Hey, you know, when I was a teenager in high school, I spent a lot of weekends in junkyards trying to find parts for my 67 Cougar, my friend's Cougars, my 64 Galaxy 500, and it was so much fun. But that was all about the scavenger hunt back then, right? You'd go there and you'd climb around these cars and you'd pull parts off yourself. How's that change for the person that's looking for parts?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of car you have. I mean, there's still pick-apart places for kind of like your general enthusiast. I can't allow that in my shop because, you know, you get into a car and if you know what you're doing. I've even had employees that didn't know how to pull a radio out, and then you're
Right.
literally cracking a whole faceplate of a $1,500 unit.
Right.
So I don't let people climb on my cars, but you know, being that we have 3 tiers of parts, it still is sometimes a mouse hunt trying to find the thing we're looking for.
Well, it sounds real dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, too. Not only can you
Yeah.
ruin expensive parts by trying to get your own, but you really could hurt yourself.
Oh, that's true. Yes, if you're not careful, there's always lots of sharp edges with crashed cars sticking
It
out.
sounds like a really technical process because I can imagine that it's not like, you know, your traditional American car. And so I guess that requires a lot of expertise to pull those cars apart.
There's definitely a skill set, and each model is different, so that changes. And then you also have the crash components. So imagine trying to pull an engine out of
Right.
a car with a collision.
Right,
You know,
good
I mean,
point.
it's really tricky because the bolts aren't there, and if the bolts are welded, you know what I mean. It
you
takes
got-
some maneuvering.
You got to know where to cut and not to cut.
Yes, that is true.
The science of salvaging.
Yes.
So talk us through a little bit about the challenge of taking over a business when your late husband passed away. How well prepared were you for that? Or was it trial by fire, a little of both? How would you characterize that?
Well, we started the company together,
Right.
and I was heavily involved. It was really, I call it my first child because I've had 4 kids since then. So.
Wow. Wow.
I definitely gave it my heart and soul, and I got us on the map. And I needed his skill set of understanding the cars, and I needed my skill set of kind of marketing the company. So that was when eBay had started, 20-something years ago, and it really put us on the global map because then now you're introduced to a very wide audience. But then since then, raising 4 kids, I really had stepped back a lot. So it was really kind of his baby at that point, and when he passed, it had to be my baby. So
Was it an abrupt transition for you, other than the emotional challenge? Or
well, there was a lot of abrupt transitions.
was it?
That's yes. I always say death is the one part you have to deal with, but the aftermath of death is probably the worst part. Yeah. There's a lot of fallout and a lot of things that you don't expect. So
Right.
yeah.
And from a business standpoint, was that kind of second nature to you because you were such an integral part of the business, or did you have to kind of learn a lot of the parts of the business that you had no idea about?
Yeah, definitely a little bit of both because he kind of ran one side and I kind of ran the other
Right.
side in a sense when we were both running it together, and
Right.
then even stepping away, there's been a lot of things, that things shift and things change.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing was that I was very behind the scenes, so people didn't really know who I was.
Ah.
So they knew Todd as this big kind of person. He was kind of I call him a beast of a man, and he had built a reputation for himself, and so I had to really step in and be the presence. So I had all my social media accounts on private, and all of
Really?
a sudden I opened it up and it was like a floodgate. So, it doesn't hurt to be a 6-foot blonde in this community. It does kind of gather a little bit of attention on its own, but I had to really kind of, show people who I am and what I can do, and that,
Now, are you comfortable with all the attention and the, the social media and being a gregarious out in front person? Does that come natural to you, or is that something you've had to learn to do?
I call myself a closet introvert. So
Okay.
people think I'm an extrovert, and I can be very extroverted when needed. But a true extrovert thrives off of that energy, and that energizes them.
Right.
Whereas an introvert, I need to recoil. So when I'm done being on,
So you need
then
some
I
time.
have to go back and be
Amen
off.
to that. Amen
Whether-
to
yeah.
that. Introverted extrovert is what I call it.
So
Yeah.
I'm
It's
an
called like
introvert, extrovert.
yeah. No, you extroverts get energy off other people. We give energy to.
Yes, it's
Interesting.
definitely good.
Yeah.
And I don't mind giving the energy. I mean,
Yeah.
I really embrace and enjoy the community. I mean, I've talked about this, I think, probably endlessly. It's an amazing group of people, and we're all coming together from such different places with the love of a common, interest.
Sure.
But learning, I love to learn. I always call myself a sponge. And so I love to figure out, kind of where people are coming from, where they're going to, whether they're technicians or mechanics, or whether they're owners, or, whatever their interest is. But, there's a commonality that we have.
Well, do you think social media has allowed like women to jump up more in this industry because it allows them to like get on Instagram, and it seems like they have a really a lot more than men, I think, that more natural for like social media marketing and presenting themselves. And so in a male dominated industry, I kind of see it as something that maybe gives more opportunity to women just because it gives them that access. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I would say, well, everybody has the same access to it. It's what you do with it. So there's definitely different ways to present yourself as a female being in a male-dominated industry. Right. And, I was actually in an article, an automobile magazine, with a few other women, and we had a big lunch, and we turned it into this 5.5-hour bonding lunch of this group of women. Sounds and they're
fun.
Fabulous. I love them.
Yeah.
Yes. And we all had different short stories to share about things that had happened, and people got really real about some really amazing things, and also some painful things that had happened. Yeah. So it's really interesting to see what people have done with it, because some of the girls in the group are Porsche owners, and they have huge followings of people. And so I think the thing about social media is it allows you to create whatever identity you want. So whether it's just from a social front and you're sharing your kids' pictures, or whether you just want to share pictures of cars, or you want to share yourself with that, or you're a race driver, or whatever it is, it just allows you to, kind of put yourself into a little frame and say, this is who I am.
This is who I am.
At least at this moment. And then the next day it could be a whole different image of you. And
which is great, because you can get the word out fast when those
Right.
changes happen. So one thing I was thinking about, so we talked about this car industry being dominated by males. What was the pushback for you when you first took over the business? Has that changed dramatically? Have you been doing this now for almost 3 years by yourself?
Yeah, going on 2.5. Yes.
So has it changed, or is there still? Do you just have to lean into it, and just how do you respond? I mean, I'm sure once in a while you're like, I'm so disappointed with what you just said, or what I just saw. How do you respond? Is it that prevalent, or do you see much of it?
I wouldn't say as much now, and maybe because I'm 46 and I've been doing this for long enough.
Yeah.
When I started with him, I mean, I remember answering the phone and people thought I was the assistant or the secretary, or, kind of the whatever girl. And so I'd be having a conversation, and granted, my knowledge was nowhere near what his was. And so he would give me, pricing things, whatever, and I'd be quoting people, and they just wanted to talk to the guy. They wanted to talk to the boss. And, sometimes they'd have some situation where I'm having some kind of, difficulty or whatever. And he would get on the phone, and I think it was also the presence of his voice too. He was a very commanding person.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I also attribute that to age, though. I was in my 20s, and then in my early 30s. So, who I am and what I was then, and who I am and what I am now they're two totally different things. We change and evolve.
Maybe you command respect regardless of your gender, right? Because of the success of your business and what you've accomplished.
I don't try to command it, but I hope that
no, it just does.
I hope that it's earned.
Well, I'm sure it's earned, right? Maybe command's a bad word, but yeah, I think it's well deserved. So it's good that it's evolved into something that's so productive for you. That's
and I also think that we as people, we can try to have everybody like us. Not everybody is gonna like us.
No.
I can be a very easy to go, to get along with person, but I'm also a bold person when
yeah.
I need to be.
Okay, all
So,
right. Cool.
and so some people are going to really like that, and some people that will rub them the wrong way, and that's okay.
We're not going to try to push your buttons today. I got the message
sure?
on that. Yeah.
Darn.
Whoa! I heard. Gee, did you hear that? I'm just kidding.
Well, what does the future of women look like in the auto industry? Are you seeing more, women getting involved and, wrenching and doing all these other things in the business?
I will say that's one thing as well about social media, because I wasn't present in that space and my life really revolved around a kid space. I mean, I was incoming PTA president, and that was I call it my volunteer career, the unpaid one.
Right.
And that's what I really knew. And I actually, the women that I surrounded myself with were, a lot of them were executives and they work in entertainment and so forth. But now shifting to cars, now that's really my focus of who I'm looking at on a regular basis. So, for one person, I'll point out is Christina Nielsen. She was the first factory Porsche race car driver, and she's not racing for Porsche now. But I joked with her. I said, I said, I don't like girls, but I would have a girl crush on you. I just think she's fabulous, and I think she really owns it. And she's such a real person. If you talk to her, and she's so kind, and she doesn't have that kind of celebrity sometimes persona that people get. Martina Kwan, she's another amazing Porsche driver.
I follow her quite a bit on Facebook and Instagram.
And she's down here local,
Yeah, I've got to get her in the booth. We definitely want to talk to her because she's just
incredible too. Yes.
She is an amazing woman, so accomplished, and seems so humble.
She is. Yes, she's a great girl. And then for example, sitting on the PCALA board, Mariana is our president, and so that's really great to see a woman that's in the lead, of a very male-dominated group, because a lot of the PCA clubs were kind of the old boys clubs, and so they're starting to convert one at a time, I'd say.
Awesome.
So
that's great to hear. I'm happy to see that that's evolving. One of the things that I've noticed about our Porsche customers, and you touched on this a little bit, is that they're really actively involved in Porsche clubs, meetups, racing. They're just so active. We sponsored Concord down in Dana Point about 3 months ago. And it's just so awesome to see all our customers there and see so many cars that we know of. But they don't miss an opportunity to drive across the country or go to the racetrack. One of the ones that's most active, I don't know if you know her name is Connie Summers. She used to be a customer.
Yes,
But she's got 4 or 5 cars, and she's always at the track, just trying to push her cars to the limit. But what's the thing about these Porsches? Why are people why is this such an integral part of their life?
Again, I think that's it might depend on how Porsche came into their life. I mean, that's another thing that I find fascinating is what is the story that brought them in.
Right.
So sometimes like myself, it was, a parent, or I've heard stories of a car passing by on a street when they were really young. You know what I mean? There's even, I think, a Porsche video that they made about a little kid sitting in a classroom and a Porsche drives by on the road while he's, in class. Who knows, where that kind of bug started, but it's like once you're bitten by it, it's the disease that just keeps, kind of growing, and it's like a cancer in a good way.
Yeah. No, Jason's got
positive cancer.
Jason's got the Porsche bug. You know how he got it?
How?
Just by moving cars in and out of our warehouse. Driving the Porsches in and out. He's like, Dad, I just love these Porsches. There's something about them. The way, Jason...
Yeah, the way that they feel. Well, it's kind of like, okay, so the first car I ever bought was a Mazda 3, and I always really loved Mazda just because of their driving capability. And then, got into the Porsche, and that was like on steroids. That the feel of the car, the feel between clutch and the gearbox and the steering and just the agility of the car and how it feels. It's an amazing experience. I like it better than, getting into a supercar.
Do you?
Yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, you just get it.
I wonder if they're engineers.
It's not something a thing. It's more like a feeling.
Do you think their engineers are that smart? That they actually have engineered the experience into the car so well that immediately you got it? Because I went to a Porsche experience up in LA for a half a day. I got invited to go up there, and I was like, wow. I was ready to just make a deposit right then. A new 911, right? Not that I could have, but seriously, it's it is a disease.
Yeah, we haven't done enough podcasts to buy 911s yet, but
We will. We'll get them done.
We
So,
will.
do you think that's possible, that the engineers that design these cars are that good?
I would say that even from the very start, they were very thoughtful about what they were doing, and I actually like your kind of thought where it's an affluent enough car so that you want to desire to get it, for one, and then it's exciting enough to want to drive it, but then there's also the comfort level of being in it. Because I've had a lot of exotics. My late husband was a big exotic collector, so we had that whole plethora, and I was definitely drawn to, maybe just because I've been around Porsches for so long, but it just felt a little bit more like home. And I don't know, that sounds odd, and I mean, not that I don't like to drive a Ferrari every now and then, but there's something about a Porsche that I know if I keep sticking the pedal to the metal and I'm on a curve, I'm hugging the ground and I'm not going to go anywhere. And I didn't really get that. I felt like I was kind of more walking on eggshells, on the higher end cars.
Well, we've had Ferrari customers tell us that it's I just can't seem to want to enjoy it every day.
Yeah.
With the Porsche, I want to drive it every day, but the Ferrari feels like
you're afraid of getting like any type of accident. What is it? Those darn bumps at the front of parking spaces will cost you $50,000.
Yes, I know. Rip your whole front end off. But there's also the Porsche community too, and it's like I want to tie that portion into it because it's not that there aren't exotic communities, but it's just a different type of people that collect. I mean, and it's not like I'm hanging in every other type of community, but I definitely have had a sampling of them, and I don't know. Again, it's like the Porsche community just feels like home to me. It just really, it just feels like a really great set of people that are very open armed, and
it encompasses a lot of things. Of course, it's a social statement. So you own a Porsche, it's people are going to think that you're well-to-do.
But you could be anywhere from a 914 all the way up to a GT-RS.
Sure.
You know what I mean? There's a wide range of pricing.
Well, you can get yourself a Boxster for $10,000. Jason and I were looking at
or less,
or
even on the Boxster.
No, but see, the entry point is really easy. The bar's low.
Well, you're actually having these. We had a customer who bought like a 2005 911 Carrera. And he tricked it out. He put like a slant nose conversion on it, and then he had all his social media marketing things. It kind of looked like a old school Spitfire and everything like that. But he was only 21 years old, but he used it to market his dropship business.
That's
so
smart.
It's amazing how accessible it seems.
It does seem accessible.
Well, and especially the conversion to Outlaws. I mean, it used to be that the Porsche community was. They kind of had a
Don't you dare, right?
Right. If you were going to customize a car, or do something crazy to it. But now we've got things like Lufka which are celebrating outlaws, and there's all kinds of different communities that are just. They used to be like leave that car at the door, and now they're like no, come in, let's put you front and center because you're
everybody wants
cool.
to be Magnus, right? When they grow up, right?
Magnus, Rod Emery, yes, Singers,
cool.
All these people are my neighbors.
Are they cool? We got to get them in there too.
Well, what are your thoughts on outlaw culture? Are you a Porsche purist, or do you like the creativity, or maybe even just kind of the what is it? Kind of hipster look, if you want to call it that, like where like you like look like you're not really caring, but at the same time it's intentional.
You're caring that you don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like getting your perfect hairdo for a party.
Right. That's that does make it does make you feel different when you walk in the door. Interestingly, I'm talking about hairdos, but
right. We assume that.
So yes, it's funny because I think I was trained over all of these years to appreciate certain things because my late husband was definitely a purist.
He
wanted factory everything.
Don't touch that car.
Stock rims, stock everything, and I mean that's really what our company supports is all OEM equipment coming off of cars. But I like the identity, that people have created because
personalize it.
Right. So if you go into a lot of the same type, all 997s or all even all factory ones, there's not a lot of differentiation. Right. And so I'll take for example, there was a Steve McQueen show. I don't know if you've been, but my friends put it on.
We haven't. We keep talking
you should
about
go.
going.
Yeah, it's a great show.
We've been threatening for years. We threatened again.
Yeah,
it's coming up, isn't it?
We always have these great dreams.
Months. Yeah. You got a few more months, but
you know how it is. Two people running a small business. It's hard to get away sometimes.
Well, we got to go. If you're going to be there, we'll go.
I go. Yes, so okay. I know most of the people that
Maybe
run
even
it.
a live show. Ooh.
Oh, you could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
Record
do
our own
have.
show
I'm trying
there.
to think of who there was. I know the podcaster was there last year because I sat down and talked to him. I can't think of who it was off the top of my head. Anyways, but so I was a judge there, and the thing I liked about judging there, because I'm a trained PCA judge, but I haven't judged yet because I feel a little intimidated because I'm not a car cleaner in a sense.
Yeah.
So I feel bad pointing out the flaws of everyone else. But at the Steve McQueen show was really fun because you're judging on the cool factor.
Oh, okay.
And so, you've got, again, I'm looking at a stock car versus another car that's just got a couple little things that are different. And I'm comparing it, and I'm like, you know what, this guy upped the bar because he just went, a little more personalized, whether it's pinstriping or whether it's wrapping it or... changing the body structure, whatever it is. I like that personalization.
Well, because you don't think of conservatism with cars when you think of Steve McQueen. There's that cool factor. That
It's hard to be Steve McQueen. Many of us have tried it.
You've tried.
He nearly escaped from a Nazi prison camp.
That's
so,
right. Hey, so I want to switch gears a little bit. Make sure we talk a little bit about your involvement in the PCA. You're on the board of the LA chapter, correct? Of the PCA?
I'm on the board of LA, and San Gabriel is threatening to pull me in too. So
tell us a little bit about that. What attracts you to that, and do you encourage other Porsche enthusiasts to get that involved?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to where I was behind the scenes, and so this was another avenue for me to really get invested and against that intro extrovert kind of. When I'm forced to do something, then I have to show up and do it. So, first of all, I really love the board. So I've got people like Mariana, who's the president, and Tony Callis sits on the board.
Right.
So there's some amazing people that are on our board, and so some great information has always come out of it. Tony flies around the country giving speeches. So he's, there's a gentleman named Steve that's come in, and he's just totally come in and handled all the drives. And my friend Joe Alice is opening Porsche Santa Clarita, and so he is offered his space to do some autocross soon. So, it's really exciting just to bring kind of everybody together, and to explore different things that I hadn't really explored before. So to go on drives with people and to meet new people, and in a sense, it's part of my client base, but in a sense, it's also become a big part of my friend base.
So it opens up new doors and experiences, and then expands your friend relationships, right?
Right. Yeah. So my elite husband, because he'd been doing it for longer than even before I met him, he didn't like to socialize outside of work because his whole life was 6 days a week was socializing with Porsche people all day long.
Yeah, he's done.
Whereas I wasn't. So now, and we used to send our teams out to go to these events.
Yeah.
So now I'm the one that's going, and so I'm going to Amelia, and I go to Monterey, and I'd never really experienced these things before.
Wow. So that's one of the things I noticed when I look at your all your social media pages, especially Facebook. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you're traveling the world, which is really awesome.
I really did for a while.
I distinctly remember all the pictures and the stories you told when you were in Italy and stuff like that. I just thought, oh my God.
Well, I was chasing Magnus and Millie Mila and Mark Wag. Actually, they were all driving the Millie Mila. But then I ended up taking a diversion and going to a different route because it's Italy and there's food and there's culture and there's things to look at.
The Louvre. Well, So tell me what So is it the business that drives you to these places? Is it the friendships? Is it a little bit of both? I mean, it sounds so rich that you're able to kind of evolve from just being a business into the businesses globally, but you get to see the world and experience Porsches and cars around the world. Pretty cool.
Yeah, my parents definitely incited that travel bug in me when I was very young. Yeah. They took me to Europe when I think it was 16, and I'll never forget going there. Although, granted, at 16 I was probably boy crazy. I was not car crazy.
You don't remember too many cars?
No, definitely not. I remember falling asleep in museums because they would drag me to all the cultural places. But
another Rembrandt. How boring, right?
I know, it's terrible.
My God.
The cathedrals and all that.
It's just a picture of a woman. What's the big deal?
Mona who?
Although the funny thing is, then I started teaching art for my kids' school later. So then it changes your whole appreciation for. Yeah, we went to the I took my big girls to the Museum of Art in New York. And it was so great because there was a couple floors of all
museum.
the things that I taught during the years. So yeah. Anyways, diversion. Sorry.
So, but when you were teaching that class, did you see the glazed over look of all these teenagers, and did you say, "Oh, there's the payback right there. Look at those kids not listening to the teacher"?
No, I think teaching. Well, they weren't teenagers then; they were in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
But no, they were so excited just to be creative because as much as I love school and education, school can be boring. So it was really fun to kind of bring little light and color into their day.
Do you ever apply your art to Porsche?
I'm not saying I'm an artist. I did not say.
Whoa.
Yeah, but
that turned out to be a good
but
question.
at least you got to know something, and you've probably dabbled.
I have creative brains for some things, but yeah, I would definitely not call myself an artist. It's funny actually. We were at the Taycan pop-up in Santa Monica, and Klaus Selmer was there, president of Porsche North America.
Right.
And they had a wall of chalk, which I posted not long ago. And so you draw your Porsche on. So they have like a little outline, and I was trying to have some fun with it, and so I made a pink Porsche, and I little flames coming out the back, but then I look over and I was like, oh, somebody made a sleigh out of a Porsche. Oh, somebody made a rocket ship out of it. It's like, damn, I'm not as good as I wish I was. In your brain, there's an idea, but I can't quite get it out on paper. So.
Well, Jason, I'll tell you, I have very little creative skills, and that's putting it kindly, to be honest with you.
No, you're a better fine artist than I am.
I have big picture skills. I see the landscape very well, and I can synthesize things together. I think if I had to say I have a creative bone in my body, it's probably that. But I marvel at people that can paint something without looking at something. And it could be as amazing as an animal or a car and not need to see it, but it's in their brain and somehow it comes out and they can draw it. I just don't know how that's possible, to be honest.
Well, I also think it's teachable. I mean,
it is.
Again, my parents are in these community classes, and so they've taught themselves art, and they've really, kind of worked into that avenue. So anything is possible. You just have to put your mind to it.
I'm into stick figure cars, so that's my claim to fame.
Well, aesthetically, what's your favorite Porsche?
993 Turbo S is still holding true for me.
What year?
Well, I mean, the Turbo S's were kind of a rare, but it doesn't even matter the year. It's just I love that tail on the S.
Right.
There's just something that's very defined about it that I like. I mean, I like 959s. I had a Carrera GT. Although the funny thing is, I was not really a big fan of the Carrera GT. It was so hard to get into as a girl in a skirt or a dress. Yeah. That's not an easy task.
Well, around here at SoCal Classic Car Storage, one of the things we do, we should put together a scorecard for the cars that are easiest to get in and out of.
Yes.
We've got some
heels. Why don't you try it?
I think no. We're going to bring in an expert for that.
356 in
with
heels.
The hairdo done. Don't turn on the fan.
I just pictured that right now.
With the hairdo, that's another challenge. But
taking me back to the time I lost that bet.
Yeah, I don't even. This is not a PG-13 show, thank God. But we do have Dodge Viper ACRs. We've got Lamborghinis. We've got Ferraris. Under management here, and we always talk about which ones are pain in the neck to get in and out of.
Yes.
And I can imagine
Lamborghinis are not easy to get in and out of.
No,
either.
We've noticed that the McLarens, pretty hard.
Yeah, well, because you have the door sills high, and then the seats kind of, or the bucket seats. I love speedsters, but bucket seats in a speedster are not comfortable.
No. So we like to oftentimes kind of deviate into the business a little bit because that's one of the areas that I'm always intrigued about, and I'm intrigued about. You seem to have a tremendous amount of awareness in your business and the SoCal and around the globe. What do you attribute your business's success to? I mean, just give us some insight on why is it so successful? How do you set yourself apart in that business, right?
Well, I'd say there's a few things. So, I mean, as I said, in the early years, getting on eBay and getting into a global market was really big.
Right.
So getting that access. Number two, being run by enthusiasts is a huge thing because
people that absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, and we identify with those people, and they identify with us.
Right.
I'd say what else is attributed? I mean, there's so many things that have come along the way. I mean, just partnering with really great people and great shops.
I would imagine make a big difference.
Yeah.
Shops.
Trying to do your best to keep everybody happy. I mean, again, it's running any business, you can't keep everybody happy all of the time, but you do what you can in order to try to make sure that everyone is satisfied in the end, and there's there's a mutual goal. We want to make sure that their car is going to get the parts that it needs. And, as a business, you have to make sure your business is operating. And
Sarah, I got to tell you, that's a far cry from the junkyards that I crawled around at when I was a little boy.
yeah.
There truly was a junkyard dog and a guy that never answered the phone down there. And when you got down there, it was not a pleasant experience. And if you got through that guy and you got into the yard, you had a chance of getting to your parts for your 67 Cougar. But those were different times. But look, these
I
are...
have heard stories about someone that used to run a Porsche yard that way.
Oh, is that right? So that happened in the Porsche world.
He hasn't been around for a long time, but yes, I've...
He's probably not too successful anymore, right?
Oh, I think he's not with us anymore. But
what's the future in dismantling? I mean, it seems to me that the internet has changed everything, every business, and it seems like it's had a dramatic, can't talk, impact on dismantling, because people can, find out what your inventory is. They can share with you what they're looking for. You can look at your inventory, and so in the old days, they said, yeah, hey, we think we got that car out in the back. Come on down. Mm-hmm. But I bet there's a pretty high degree of sophistication on your inventory and parts, if I had to guess.
Well, there's definitely shifts that are pros and cons, I'd say. So you're pointing out some of the pros, definitely, that being able to access people very quickly and find people. I mean, I was even searching on Instagram for Boxster owners this morning and just, checking out what's happening. But then the con is in terms of buying. So in the olden days when we used to want to buy Porsches, first of all, I'll say a pro and con. So then you had to be physically present or have someone there at the auction in order to raise the paddle to bid.
Yeah.
But now that the internet has opened up, so now we've got international markets that can go. So now I've got more competition to buy the cars that I want to get. Right. So now I have to spend more on these cars.
Take a bigger risk.
Yes, well, and it's at a risk in itself, because sometimes people will put things back into cars and put them back up for sale at auctions. So you have to be very savvy about what you're buying. And so sometimes you get a car and it's not even the original engine that was in it. I mean, it's...
So you struggle with the same thing we struggle with as car enthusiasts, trying to get a deal. When we go online, we're trying to get a deal. It's hard to find a deal anymore, because everybody has access to those cars that are being sold digitally, right? Mm-hmm. So therein lies the same challenge for you. So you could easily spend too much money on, let's say, a Porsche that's been scrapped or in an accident, and you don't get a return on investment on that vehicle if you're not careful.
Well, it's not that we're going to get any return. It'll just be a lot harder to make the return.
I see. Take longer to get to the return.
Exactly.
Interesting. How important are dismantlers, from the, as far as the new cars versus the old cars? What I'm imagining, we'll show you some of the cool cars. We got some 964s. We got an RS America. We got a really nice slant nose 930 next door. But I'm guessing the older the Porsche, the more rare the Porsche, the more important you become. But the volume has got to be with the new cars. So, tell me about how important you are, and to which, segment, if you will, if you could segment the audience.
Definitely when you get into the less common cars, you mentioned quite a few, it is rare to get the parts, and the hard thing is that the price will go up on them because of the rarity of those items.
Sure. And
it's harder for us to acquire them. We have to pay a lot for them. But people don't always want to pay that in return.
Right. So do you buy...
I mean, if I had a dollar for every time it said they want a perfect part, I'm like, well, let's think about this logically. So the owner had it for X amount of time. The insurance company had it. It was in an accident. Right. It sat in a yard. Then it got to my yard. It may not be perfect like you think. They had miles on it originally.
So are you buying cars, parts from Germany, around the world? Or are you trying to buy locally?
We have before, yeah. I mean,
for rare cars?
I mean, in terms of importing cars, there's usually enough cars in the U.S. that we don't have to import them. So we've gotten cars from other places. We've gotten parts from other places.
Have you?
Yes, but we also ship them out to other places.
So a lot of my customers tell me with these rare cars, these Porsches, that we've got to go to Germany to get these parts. And I'm saying, no, I think you need to call Sarah, and you could get that probably locally. And if you don't have it, my bet is you have access to it.
Yes, so we definitely have a supply chain of people. I mean, that's one thing that you talked about, advantages of dismantlers. So that's one thing I learned about touring around the world, is that what we do in terms of just having a niche of one make in a yard is just so uncommon. I mean, there's a few of them here in the United States, but it's very rare. But you go around the world. So let's say I was in Dubai, And the car culture there is amazing. And the Porsches that are, I mean, it's just incredible.
Wow.
But there's just huge yards of, gold in the middle of kind of nothingness. I mean, they've got these piles and piles of stuff where they could have, some really, insane car out there that's just no one has access to. No one can touch it, and the desert is eating it alive.
And you're like, don't let that rot. That's a Bugatti. Why is that rotting over there in that sand dune? I don't get it.
And think of the heat in an enclosed, space, and the whole interiors are
I've seen those pictures from Dubai. I just scratch my head going, wow. But at some point, it's just a disposable asset to somebody that probably doesn't
that had too much money to start with.
Right. Exactly.
This morning, actually, if there was a GT2 RS that's in Chile, that's like buried. It's funny. I just posted about it this morning.
Buried.
Yes.
I heard a couple of those.
Well, not buried, but I mean like it was just under piles of dust. And that's a newer car. That's not even like a slant nose vintage barn find or anything. That's
So switching gears by quite a bit, let's talk about these 4 daughters that you have that you said you love and cherish. And I'm curious.
I say that? No, okay.
I heard that before we started the podcast.
Yes,
you might have changed your mind. But have they shown an interest in the business? I mean, again, here we are talking about a woman in a male-dominated culture in the car community.
With 4 girls.
And now you got 4 girls, and you're thinking to yourself, am I going to get any help from these girls? Are they going to So do they have an interest? I mean, I'm sure they're wonderful people, but are you training them, or what are your thoughts about
So
them
they're definitely each
participating?
different. 2 are young. So I've got an almost 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, and then I've got 15 and 16. So my 16-year-old has helped me with social media and things like that.
Right.
I don't know that she has an interest in running the business. My second one, she actually stayed overnight in the yard by herself.
She did not.
She did. There's always stories about ghosts in our yard, and so
really?
Yeah, it's been a thing. I don't know if it's because of the owners have kind of stuck to their cars after maybe some of them passed on. I don't know if it's my late husband. I have no idea what it is, but rumor has been around.
She wanted to check this out herself.
It's her second time doing it.
Sleeping
she did
bag
it
at 10, or did
yeah.
she just stay in a Porsche?
No, I don't think she leaves the office, because in the office is where you hear all the sounds upstairs of people walking and things. So I think she gets a little paranoid, but she kind of likes to give herself a thrill. But she's also very mechanically inclined. So when she goes there, she actually learns from the mechanics, and she sits and she watches, and she's very observant. The little 2, I'd say they're kind of too young to really, to know what their path is going to be. But I drag them to car events all the time. They sit it with me, at shows all day long, and sometimes they get a little bored, and sometimes they run around and play, and
I forced Jason to all the car shows and stuff, and poor kid,
look at him now, working next to Dad.
Right. Right, Jay? How lucky can you be, right?
Oh yeah. Well, we still haven't figured out if I'm the milkman's kid or not.
Yeah. At some point, it's just too late for testing.
Is that the
really
excuse?
Yeah, that's like 11 years too late.
One day, I think he was 14. He said, Dad, how do you know?
Just to give people context who have never met us in person, I'm pretty brown and Filipino. My dad's, silver fox white guy. So,
Thank you,
although
Jay.
we
That's
do
the
look
nicest thing he's ever
alike,
said.
there's still a question, though.
Yeah.
So just to give you that context.
So Jason says to me, I don't know, he's 14 or 15, Dad, do you think I am? And I said, well, it's kind of late now, isn't it? I mean, I should have ran that test a long time ago. I just assume, right?
But in all
I will
seriousness,
say, all 4 of my kids came out of me, and they all 4 look different.
Really?
So yes, I've got a blonde hair, blue-eyed, up to a dark brunette, brown-eyed. So
well, my dad's passed, but I did tease him about my older brother one time, and that was not well received.
Uncle Al does look weird.
I've got a brother that's kind of alien to the family, and
because he looks like the Alaskan Airlines Eskimo.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
Exactly. That's exactly what he looks like. And body shape's different, the whole thing. And but no, my dad didn't find that terribly humorous. I thought it was, but
interesting.
God rest his soul. So, what's the most challenging part of your business? I mean, it just seems so complicated because all the parts and the inventory and all that other stuff. Is it sales? Is it people management? Is it, give us an idea. What is there a struggle, or you got this down to a science now? Or is it that
sure,
easy?
science.
You make it look easy. You're so calm here.
Well, it's Saturday.
It's Saturday, right?
I'd say any company is really the sum of its employees, and so finding really good people. That this day and age, that the millennial generation is a little bit different than my generation, and so you have to identify with who they are and what they want, and how you can incorporate, trying to make them happy in a workplace, right. And they want to be entertained, but they also need to get employment, and so there's that
finding the balance.
Finding that balance, yeah.
Jason, you and I have yet to find that balance, but we're working on it, right?
What, entertainment at work?
No, I can't commit to that. I think.
Well, why do you think I start fights with you all the time? It's just because it's boring, and so I like to throw in a little variables.
I've gained some insight today.
Right now,
thank you.
Dang it! I just showed my cards
right.
here.
I was wondering what the motivation was.
Damn it!
So I guess only a couple more questions, but can you tell folks that are listening today what's the best way to get in touch with you and the company? I mean, how do they reach out and find out more about Los Angeles?
My phone number is, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. So I mean, our website is ladismantler.com. We are on Facebook, and
right.
You can find me under Sara Porsche Dakarmen.
Right.
I'm on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram under LA Dismantler. So pretty much every social platform. I've got YouTube and all that, but I have not kept up. I'm pretty much the one-man posting machine. So.
But if that's great. But if you're out on the road traveling and you're in car shows and you're traveling around the world, do they just need to find out where you're going to be and try to catch up with you at these shows? I try to stay out of
I definitely try to post beforehand where I'm going.
Okay, great.
Sometimes I don't always know right away. When I was traveling, I had 4 hours to pack for Paris, so that's,
really?
Yeah. But then sometimes on the plane, I always say, it's a work day. If I'm on a plane, then how do you fly so far? I'm like, it's a 14-hour work day for me as long as I have Wi-Fi. Then I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'd be messaging people and looking for who's in France and who can I connect with, and yeah. So I think my traveling is a little on the decline right now, but
So, have you reached a celebrity status? I mean, you like you said, you're a unicorn. Do you find yourself getting to that point where, oh my, there's Sara, and are people responding to you that way? Like, like Dave Kindiga. I mean, Jason and I have met him a couple of times, and he's just a really down-to-earth, cool guy. But, I mean, at some point.
Please join our show.
Yeah. Right.
It's funny. I think I don't know that I think that, but
right.
Other people tell me that, and they tell
right.
me how much I've affected the community, and I'm like, I'm just a girl who's posting some stuff that I like. Like, I don't have a strategy, I don't have a plan. It's just kind of and I really only post probably 1% of what I do. I have so many photos. I wish I could go back to flashbacks.
Well, I bet you're an inspiration.
That's a great
for
thank you.
Women in the industry.
Thank
you. Have you had any fans give you like compliments or anything?
Oh, I've had the whole gamut of unwanted pictures up to accolades and everything in between. So, yeah, I mean, it is. And going back to that introvert extrovert, I actually really like it when people come up to me because I have it's between all of the different
beats going
platforms,
up and talking to them, right?
I'm feeling comfortable. Like if I walk into an event and I don't know at least one person, I'm ready to leave. You know what I mean? Like
get
where's
out
the door?
phone.
Yes, and it's so. It makes it a lot easier when people approach you, and I try to always put on a big smile and be approachable. But then people will say, "Oh, hi, I'm Mike from Facebook," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I probably have like 300 mics. Like, give me some reference. What
car
do we
you
chat
drive?
about, right?"
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you, Sara. You've been a terrific guest. We've had a lot of fun today. I've learned a lot about my son and why he starts fights at the business.
But get the bills in the mail.
Now I got to change my strategy.
Right.
A new strategy. But you've been fantastic, and we've gained some tremendous insight into LA Dismantling and your amazing story. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thanks so much for having me down here.
Yeah,
and I'm excited for my tour. I want to see all these cars you got hidden over here.
Coming up. Yeah.
Some little hidden gems.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of hidden gems.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything we may have missed?
I don't know. Let's just keep celebrating the Porsche community and culture. And, I've started to see a lot of car storage places coming around. And I like that is enhancing. I like that you talked about how you have, a section where members can hang out. That's part of it. It's that bonding experience of bringing people together and allowing them a space to, even if they're not Porsche people, whatever, just, having the common interest of cars and making that the chat,
That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming by. Again, that was Sara Dakarmen from LA Dismantler. social media star and
That's right.
Porsche enthusiast. So again, thank you so much for coming here on the show. That is gonna do it here for the SoCal Classic Car podcast. We've recorded live here at SoCal Classic Car Storage here in Laguna Hills. If you want to find more episodes of our podcast, you can go visit our website, socalcarstorage.com, visit our Facebook page at SoCal Car Storage, or you could check us out on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, wherever major podcast outlets are. So thank you so much for stopping by. And again, happy driving, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus, whatever you celebrate, and good luck to you in the new year. Luck to you in the new year. Luck to you in the new year. Luck to you in the new year.